Well, I mean, this is an expansion of the world of Planet of the Apes. The universe that Wes has kind of created here is it's just bigger than the last three films, but also kind of harkens back to the '68 universe.
I think there's something very kind of luscious about this one visually, and almost otherworldly. You know, it is our world, but it looks so different.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a twinkle to that and a magic to that. And also I feel like it really does feel like it's an adventure and a journey, because you get to see so many different locations, and so it's very visually stimulating and kind of exciting.
Yeah, I think, for me, it definitely did. I've wanted to play an ape or an animal, but especially an ape, since I was a little kid, and getting to do performance capture was just a dream. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it just happened to be that the case. There was a lot of physical stuff. I always love the stunt element of a job, and so that's always going to be exciting. But I don't think it was an intentional thing. But yeah, I loved it.
Wes he's like truly a visionary. You know, people throw around that word, but like he sees everything, and the clarity with which he directed this movie, with which he even had the idea for this movie, is really astounding. And his passion was just like so infectious. Every day you could feel how much he loved this story and these characters, and he was really in it with us. Like he was really. He was our leader.
Yeah, for me, to be able to go to work every day and to be able to fully trust him, and to be able to just say yes and take the direction with that trust, and knowing that he wants the best for it, and that he's intelligent and has a vision, and that was so freeing. And yeah, and to get a director that's got such a vision and is so visual, but is also so incredibly sensitive to the actors, and is able to provide direction and thoughts that you haven't even thought of.
Emotionally intelligent.
Yeah.
He's so right there
in terms of
character.
giving that the direction, but also in terms of working with the actors in order to get the best out of them. And you have to have a certain kind of intelligence to be able to do that, and to trigger things, and to
know what your actors need.
Yeah, exactly.
Not many directors can do that. But also, especially it's amazing considering he's not an actor. He comes from visual effects, and he has an understanding of the technology that's making this film possible that most directors do not have. He really can kind of do it all. It's wild.
When you have an opportunity to work on with my body, my instrument, my voice, my body and my voice, and demanding equal attention, it's the feast of what being an actor for me is about.
I dreamt that it would be what it became, but it was way greater, where my dream was always to be able to fully immerse myself and create very, very different humans. And in this case, I got to create this bonobo, and the idea of trying to figure out how to filter my humanity through this different anatomy, this different physiology, this different psychology, was such a great challenge. And you gotta admit, it felt really, really good to get into our characters. And when we were all interacting as apes, it felt incredibly natural and really quite wonderful, to the point where, they gave us an ape school before we started shooting. We really could have used a human school so that we can integrate back into society.
Oh, I can tell you about ape school, all right. So we started by, we walk into the basement of a soundstage on the Disney lot in Sydney, Australia. And there on the walls, there are pictures of the skeletal structures of various apes. So immediately, I'm noticing the differences between my and a human skeleton as well. So we're starting to already just visually pick apart the differences and pick at the differences. So then we, I remember the first day you take your shoes off, and here's this group of people that I'm eventually going to fall in love with, and with Elaine Gauthier, our movement coach. And he's an incredible performer, and as well as he's a biologist, I believe, a scientist. And so we start unpacking the anatomy of apes, unpacking the fact that the rib cage and the hip bones are a lot closer together on apes than humans. So human beings have this axis in which they turn on, apes do not. So you're learning how to shift your weight. This is the fundamental basics of and then you're learning how to walk, and you're given this information by Elaine, and just asking you to walk around the room and just layering in more and more information, and taking on like your center of gravity changing and being lower. Your legs are shorter. You have thumbs almost on your feet. So you, over the process of 6 weeks, by the time we're ready to shoot, we've gone through examining not only the physicality of the ape that you're playing, but the psychology, the physioanatomy, the understanding the difference between the human vocal muscular structure and vocal cords and larynx and things like that, different than an ape's. We've delved into breaking the language up of the script in terms of making it more
individual.
And
from that point, can I continue?
Go.
From that point on, after we go through the ape school and find the movement of the ape, and it becomes part of our body, we start to filter in our own unique characters, our own unique idiosyncratic behavior, our intentions, the obstacles that we have, how we could achieve our goals, our individual goals. And it's interesting because I think Gauthier, our movement director, would place us in situations where, now that we have all of this information, he would place us in situations where we were able to improvise with each other. So for me, it started off with Owen, and I had been doing a lot of thinking about humanity and the history of Homo sapiens, and I wanted to teach this young ape fiercely about why we can't let humans gain power again. And I saw the shift in his eyes, where he understood that that where I was coming from was a place that he wanted to know more about. And then I was placed in situations where I was with Travis and Lydia, and there was this fierce kind of sense of hierarchy that arose out of those situations. So we all got to know each other as apes first, and ape school really did continue throughout the entire shoot, really, and continues to this day, where we still all greet each other as apes, rather than saying, "Hi, how are you?" We go,
Oh, it's nice to see you, although I disagree with your philosophies.
Well,
Yes.
there is room for improvement. There's room for growth, my friend.
Yes,
Just
okay.
calm yourself. Breathe in through
Yes.
your nose and out through your mouth. Take your time. Take in the world as you see it.
He does not mean to sound so condescending.
Oh, condescending. That's not a word that's in my vocabulary. Yeah,
So-
so it's here, and it's to the where we can just jump in and
Live and
really
breathe as apes.
Yeah, and communicate with each other through being an ape, and that's a pretty neat thing, and it doesn't go away. I don't think ever. I don't know
No.
if I'm ever gonna stop once I've learned like this is in my body. It's in my cells. Like
Heck yeah. Apes till we die.
apes till we die.
Oh my God.
Mm.
I could start off just with first we started off auditioning, and then we both individually had these meetings with Wes, and Wes really knew exactly what movie he was making, and took us through this journey with all of these images, even down to the detail of there were sketches of Proximus already that I could look at and go, oh my God,
Spooky.
there he is.
Yeah.
And the amount of detail and time that was put in before we even had an opportunity to even come into consciousness about the project was so overwhelming. It was flabbergasting to think how much time was already put in. And then once we did our jobs, which took approximately 6 months, there was still another year of work, world building and painting every intricate detail about every single finite movement of our faces and the intention. Everything came through so clearly, and I could keep going, so you go ahead.
Well, what's great about this particular film, this installment of the franchise, this new chapter, is the presence of nature, and what 300 years from now or about would look like if human beings are no longer the apex predator, like no longer on the top of the food chain. And it's such a lush, green, beautiful, and decayed. So it's like decay and new growth happening over that decay. So
The decay of the human imprint.
right,
The world
the
that was
skyscrapers,
reborn.
the building. It's really truly Mother Nature reclaiming itself.
Yeah.
And it's a character in this
Oh,
film.
God.
This film, there's a lot of daylight sequences. There's a lot of lush, and that's from being able to shoot in Australia and some of the most beautiful places in the world. But there's a lot of daylight sequences in this film. This the last war was pretty dark. The lack of the human element in this film, and so I think that allows us to really take a closer look at the complicated relationships between apes. I feel like this is really in the Apes movie.
You know what
Go
I
ahead.
also really enjoyed was to see the Earth so incredibly healthy. That human imprint had been was being removed, rebirthed. So it almost has a feeling of like what we would imagine Eden would have been like.
Well, when we're shooting out there in those
Yeah.
locations, in the bush, in like the rainforest of untouched rainforest in Australia, the air was so fresh. and clean and crisp, and at times very hot. But it and the water like of that river was so clean, and it felt a lot like, oh wow, this is what it must feel like to be. There are places, very few places, but like that are untouched and unsullied by human beings' footprint, and it really gave that feeling of living in that world where the earth, where nature and the earth is really, really, really present. And that felt.
It was really trippy.
Special.
For me was watching the movie. It felt a lot like the place where I grew up. I'm from a place that's 21 hours north of Toronto, and it's endless forests and lakes and rivers and creeks and mountains, and they say that the human brain functions so much better when it's in nature, and when you watch this movie you almost feel at ease until the narrative starts to take hold, and then there's so much tension and so many rival kind of philosophies going on, and a lot of very high stakes, but it's all done in this, amidst this beautiful these beautiful vistas that you could literally pause every frame of the film and take a picture and want to put that picture on your wall.
Yeah,
it's, so
it's gorgeous.
Yeah,
it's gorgeous.
I think audiences can expect to see a film that is so incredibly well thought out and executed on every front. It's a real smorgasbord, right?
Yeah, I like what's come up is like how the world building.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like where you're placed and where you're brought into, almost, off like the first 2 minutes, like after the opening sequence, then we're into this new world, and again with Wes's brilliant vision, he truly is a visionary director. Like, I mean, the story that we talked about for an hour and a half via Zoom, with the storyboards and him telling me explaining to me the various arcs and of the characters and the arc of the film, was pretty much the film that we shot. And I think when you do go and see this movie on as large a screen as you possibly can, what you can expect to see, or what you would expect to happen, is to be submerged into this world that is strange and it's foreign and it's slightly familiar, and I think it puts apes in their natural habitat in as much as they would be without human beings interfering or dictating how the world is supposed to be. So you really, the way that the climbing sequences, the way that they move through the world, like the innocence, it really is a three-dimensionalized experience, and I think it may change the way that we view, the next time you go to a sanctuary or you go to a zoo. I think it certainly put something on my mind in terms of how I viewed apes in captivity.
No doubt. And it really truly acts as a mirror to humanity. And just one last thing I wanted to add, for you audience members or potential audience members, this film can be digested in many different ways. So if you are feeling like you just want pure escapism and just disappear into these beautiful vistas following this gorgeous story of really, it's the journey of a hero, and it's the hero's journey. You can just go and do that, and if you choose to look between the lines and engage in all of the potential different themes, the different things that are happening in this world right now, you can do that, and you could go as deep as you like, and because it's such a rich world to be a part of. So I just encourage you to sit down and just enjoy it in all its splendor.
It's a good question, but I think it has to do with thoughtful entertainment, a blend of spectacle and truth. You know, it's usually a story that kind of reminds us of what it means to be human. We see ourselves in these apes. You know, they resonates with the times that we're in, but it also combines it with the cutting-edge visual effects, the peak of what's possible today technologically, and the experience of going to a giant movie theater with great sound and great picture. And so hopefully we've done that here. So Andy Serkis, I think, is our ape godfather. You know, he showed the world what's possible with this technology, and just his performance, which is massive. He's a great actor and a great person, and it was very important to us moving forward that we were going to get this right, that we felt like we belonged in the tradition of these great movies. And so Andy was a really great role for us to, you know, check with him on the script and on the direction that we were going. And he was a great sounding board for the actors to learn this process of how you come into this thing and are a great actor, give great performances that we're going to translate to these impossible images of apes that you believe in, you know. It was very important to us that we stood on our own 2 feet in terms of the story, in terms of the adventure of this movie, but we did not want to lose all the amazing goodwill and story essence of what was created before us with Andy and his storyline of Caesar. And so we found a good way to create some distance from those movies so we could start a new chapter, to have a new beginning here. But Caesar is a story in this movie. He's a character in this movie. The ideals of what he stood for, what he meant to apes, his myth and legend, echoes throughout the world in our story. And this Noah character, as he navigates this new world for himself, he comes to learn who this character was, and it shapes him as a character by the end of the movie, and ultimately, I think, changes him into the ape that he's going to become. For me, casting a movie is a very much internal kind of gut level thing. It's kind of purely instinct. But I look for good people, good actors, and then everything else works out, you know. So all of our cast had never done this process, the technical process, before, but they're all incredibly well versed in the franchise, but also they're just great people to work with. And you need that when you're making a movie, which is really difficult work. And so I think we've done it, and I think people are going to fall in love with these new cast of characters, and you know, hopefully we'll get to continue the adventure with them in future movies.
Well, my background and how I got involved with the film started obviously as an acrobat. I was a trampolinist for many years, competing for Canada. And after graduating from university, I decided to run away with the circus. I was drafted by Cirque du Soleil back in 1986, and I toured with the company for about 9 years. After which I moved more into teaching and also into performing in dance theater. Dance theater, and then also just physical theater and different roles for theater, for opera. And ultimately in the 2000 I became a choreographer. I was specialized in creating movement when it comes to opera and physical theater, and obviously choreography when I was working with live shows. And in 2003, I was asked to come in and join a famous show called Cavalia that I choreographed. I was specialized in choreographing all the acrobatics in this show and responsible for integrating the world of acrobatics with the equestrian world. I then followed the show for a total of about 16 years as artistic director and also as a resident director during that time, I had in and outs going into opera productions and physical theater, and I had a chance to do some work with NBC, choreographing for Celebrity Circus, of all things. And then, yes, what was involved, I think I started with motion capture back in the really early days. It must have been, God, it was 2000 and, close to 2000 actually. I worked in a film by Peter Cronenberg, and it was really the beginning. There was like 6 caption, dots on the suits. And obviously it took me to, a lot of great shows, a lot of working with performers, a lot of teaching. And one day I got a call asking me if I would be interested in preparing the actors for Planet of the Apes. And I didn't even hesitate for a moment. And here I am today. For me, preparing an actor for a physical role starts with conditioning the body and stripping some of the conditioned layers, habits of the human in that actor, so that he becomes I call it, an open vessel. An open vessel is ready to receive new content. And this is a process that goes through a lot of different techniques, specific movements that I choose among many of those techniques to get an actor to develop his coherence, develop his coordination, ultimately have the perfect body awareness to be ready to now incorporate a new persona, and not only a psyche, but a physical persona, which is the case for Planet of the Apes. And then the process, of course, once this is achieved, is really starting with the basics, studying the creature that you're creating, in our case, the ape, and understanding the physiology of it, understanding, the different proportions and the nature of that creature and its behavior in nature and in social environments, and then taking the actor on that journey, first discovering the physical creature that he's going to be, then slowly taking him through who he is, what does he like, how does he act when he's angry, when he's scared, when he's happy, when he's loving, and going through all the array of different emotions, different intensities, and eventually, once that has been workshopped and obviously improvised, hours and hours of improvisation, then we get into the scenes and we start doing scene-specific work and playing at different rhythms, different positions, different, going through all that. And the process took about 6 weeks in all before shooting time. And we had some contributions. Andy Serkis was really generous of his person, did some Zoom calls with the actors one-on-one to help them just tweak their character, find the story behind it, find the voice, find how they would have their narrative come out properly. And then we were ready to shoot, and here we go. We're starting a movie. Yes, when it comes to how the process of doing motion capture and that transformation literally to the end product, which is absolutely stunning. What was really important during the shoot was for me to make sure that the actors not only mastered their character and were playing it the right way, depending on what the director was looking for, also helping keep an eye on how they play their characters through the whole shoot, because the actor being focused on what the scene is and how the character is going to play that scene sometimes takes him out of the format of the ape, especially if there's last minute changes and variations to be explored. And So I always had an eye on what they were doing in front of the camera. And it was interesting because over time, since sometimes it was difficult to get to them because there was a lot of people on set and a lot of people that have to interact with them, and makeup and costume and the director in and out, I found a way to communicate with them by just mimicking, signing, looking at each other. And when it was complicated, I'd find my way in and talk to them and say, look, you could do this, do that. But it was pretty phenomenal how over time the actors, after finishing a scene and having, you know, their feedback and everything, before they started anything else would just look at me, and we looked at each other and we understood what was going on. And I would just do a little mimic to show them, you know, remember to stay low, or, you know, watch your head, you know, your head is not right, or watch your knees, you're standing up straight and now you look like a guy in a suit. And you know, all these things, they're really important details to make sure that the actor in the mocap suit is really that character that we worked on through the whole, you know, process of shooting the movie, and remains consistent so that it doesn't become too much of a challenge for all the VFX, whether going through all illustration and CGI, you know, having to question themselves, oh, that was weird, we're gonna have to redo the legs or whatever. So this is all something that I had to keep an eye for and try to help as much as I can. And my relationship with Weta was great. I mean, Eric, the VFX producer, was fantastic. He really helped me. Sometimes my eye was somewhere else or on another character in the background, whatever, and Eric would come and elbow me and say, I think, you know, this character, he's just, yeah, he's not right, there's something wrong. And then I get in, oh yes, thank you for reminding me. And it was really a lot of cooperation happening that way. And I mean, what I saw so far coming out on the end product is just mesmerizing. My fear was that there was so much work done in creating these characters, and these actors, you know, having to transform themselves and going through the whole meat grinder of creating a character, which is difficult. It's emotional. It has a lot of layers, and hoping that in the end I could recognize these characters just looking at the CGI animation, and just go, wow, this is exactly, I can feel their heartbeat, you know, and that's what we're seeing. It's just extraordinary. The work that they did was phenomenal. It's pure magic, really.